Let me ask you a question. Does this look fun to you? Throughout the early 2000s, racing games were multiplying faster than a Catholic rabbit. There was always some racing game being released, and if you had an older sibling, you definitely grew up watching them play some of the most influential racing games of our generation. And while nowadays racing games plague the same issues as modern gaming as a whole, being riddled with microtransactions or even the fact that you have to be connected to a server to play some of these games, no one's really all that excited for racing games anymore. Online multiplayer, while still being a technological wonder in my eyes and the eyes of many others, keeping most games online for the sake of just having them to be online makes no sense, especially for the racing genre. It's just a huge cultural shift, because back in the day we had Gran Turismo 4, Midnight Club, and Test Drive Unlimited, just to name a few, and hell, we even got 3 of the greatest Mario Kart games during this generation. And couch co-op was at its peak during this timeline of video games, and despite Mario Kart being the undisputed giant of the racing genre regardless of who you ask, we had 3 games that were outsider to the traditional racing formula. 2 of them are very similar, sharing a commonality in that they are very fun games in their own right, with the last game in the series being the complete opposite of that, effectively halting the series to this very day. Welcome to Sonic Riders, not your typical racing game, and to this day there hasn't been a cooler racing formula that isn't just generic kart racing. Even the newer Sonic racing games moved away from hoverboards to become just Mario Kart again. A series abandoned because of the piss poor sales and reception of the third and final game, Sonic Free Riders, again for the Xbox 360's terrible add-on to try to cash on some of the Wii's success in motion gaming, the Xbox Kinect. No, not that one, this one. This thing killed the series, man. No ands, ifs, or buts, and of course being a Sonic fan in the early 2010s was enough, but this thing, man, I strongly believe if the Kinect never came out we would still have this series, because as much as the Sonic Riders sequel, Sonic Riders Zero Gravity, was a downgrade for a game that came out on a system that was supposed to be more powerful than the system its prequel came out on, it's still very playable right out of the box. I'm gonna have to save Sonic Free Riders for another video because I could literally be here all day, but I would love to give a huge shout out to Rai-san, the person responsible for preserving this game via the No Connect mod, and every time I try to set it up it just kinda breaks, so yeah. Well anyways, Sonic Riders was Sonic Team's third attempt at making a racing series. There was first the Sonic Drift series back on the Game Gear, and those got about 3 games before Sonic Team pulled the plug on that series. And I mean, look at it. It's as generic kart racing as generic kart racer can get. Clear as day to be a Mario Kart ripoff, they just wanted their piece of the pie after games like Super Mario Kart and Mario Kart Super Circuit for the Game Boy Advance. And the second was Sonic R, and I'll admit, I have a very small soft spot for this game. I've never collected all the Chaos Emerald when I played this one as I got older, but I can appreciate this game through a weird lens. Without the obvious comment about the music, I mean. But come to think about it, this could have been a really early prequel to the original now, with Tails being smart enough to manufacture extreme gear, or the R in the logo just being really consistent with these games. No, go away. This leads into their third attempt at making a racing series, this being Sonic Riders. And a couple of years later, the internet was rocked with this. And I know you're just like, Daffy, what the hell is this? Well, this is Sonic Riders before Sonic Riders. Created by the developers Visionscape Interactive, this was shown to Sega as a tech demo, a proof of concept for a Sonic skating type game akin to popular skate type games, which ultimately got rejected as the people responsible for the demo never got contacted by Sega again after they were shown this. Heavy on the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series, as the game took heavy inspiration from the gameplay side of things, but it seems like something about this stuck with them, because a couple of years later promotional imagery started popping up advertising a new Sonic racing game, but instead of cars there were hoverboards. And honestly, the fact that to this day nobody has tried to make another racing game with a concept like this is still kinda mind-blowing. Sonic Team really had an extremely good idea for this game, and they just let it go. So as you can see, the hoverboard concept was already in play, it just fits Sonic and his character, so I wouldn't be surprised if someone from Sega or Sonic team was just like, well, let's just make it into a racing game, and boom, final product. Alright, now with all that out of the way, let's finally jump into the story. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles are strolling in an area somewhere in their world, and they're looking for a random power signal that Tails has been able to pick up due to this magic MacGuffin he has right here, although it's jammed, so it's not doing that much help. But not too long after that, 3 random bogies break out from a building, setting up the main rivals for our main characters. It is stated that a Chaos Emerald was sending the signal, so the heroes give chase. And yeah, we're watching the rest of this cutscene. I love this cutscene.
What the? So, you're supposed to be the fastest thing alive? Oh, new competition!
Sonic and friends regroup back in the heart of the city right on time for them to hear this Eggman announcement. You can clearly see that this game was written in Japan and translated in English once it was getting ready to come out.
Not just a race, but a special race to see who's the fastest. Come on now, dawg.
Not just a race, but a special race, yeah right. So anyway, Eggman's message is telling the main cast of characters about an event he's holding called
The X-World Grand Prix, a tournament to see who's the best of the best with extreme gear.
and that all members must have a Chaos Emerald as an entry fee. Now, Sonic in the early 2000s wasn't known for being particularly smart, so instead of putting 2 and 2 together like most of us would be able to, he decides to ask one question.
Eggman again! Just what is he up to this time?
Eggman returns to the screen, a little foreshadowing, that's a little funny, where he shows off the 3 characters from the night before as contestants that have already signed up for the Grand Prix. Storm the Albatross, Wave the Swallow, and Jet the Hawk.
Hey, that's... the X-World Grand Prix, huh? Let's do this!
Metal City is our first stage here, and it's a memorable one, racing within the bustling cities from the prior cutscenes, and Sonic is our main racer here, so I'll talk about the game's controls. You see this right here? This is your starting barricade. As the race begins, a 5-second timer appears with an electric barricade stopping you at the beginning. Running straight at it before the timer is up gets you shocked and you start behind everyone else. Crossing it at the same time the timer hits 0 and you're flown straight off. Now there's different levels of starting speeds you can achieve. The slower you are, the slower you start, so keep that in mind. Now you can wait for the bar to be fully cleared out, but by then most racers are long ahead of you. Not that it's hard to catch up anyway, but it's a level of misfortune that you just don't want in your race. Crossing the starting line puts whatever character you're using onto their extreme gear. Also for the rest of the video, I'm calling them hoverboards because I cannot with that name. Upcoming is one of the game's different types of ramps, and before I continue I would like to say I know I might be coming off strongly with an overview of a Sonic racing game from 2006, but a lot of the complaints about this game was that it was too intuitive without having any explanation. And while this game does have a dedicated video tutorial that tries its best to explain how this game works, it's often glossed over or hell damn right even skipped in most experiences, and most reviewers can't even explain this game well. So I'm gonna attempt to do it myself, as this was my first video game ever. I played the hell out of this game growing up, and same for its sequel. Okay, now with all that out of the way, let's continue. We already talked about the starting line, now continuing with the trick system. You have 2 types of main ramps. These here I like to call slaying ramps, but that's neither here or there, and launch-shaped ramps. They kind of signal the way you want to hold the control stick after launching off of them. The slanting ramps often look like this, and coming up to them you want to start holding down the jump button, and the longer you hold down the button, the higher you jump. Then you can break into a flurry of tricks to look stylish, which you're going to have to try to land, keep the speed going. Messing up will result in failing, getting little to no air, and slowing down a shit ton. But that's not all, as these ramps can take you to different paths depending on which way you hold the analog stick. Case in point, right at the beginning, you want to start your trick sequence by holding up on the control stick. That's going to launch you forward to reach the upper path. And same with these half pipe ramps, which are more often saved for the ending of the race for more grander spectacle, I guess. You can hold the control stick in any direction to get the job done, but if you hold down on these ramps, you will jump higher to reach other areas that's out of reach. And I think that's a pretty cool mechanic that's never been explained. I don't even think the tutorial talks about this, case in point. So after your first ever experience tricking, you're finally in control of your character. And one more thing before we finally get started is I'm playing this game on Dolphin, as it's the only way to put this game in widescreen as far as I know, and I'm not breaking out my Wii U to check. Moving the control stick left to right obviously controls your character, steering them to reach each respective side. And honestly, besides how the game explains these controls, these are some pretty decent controls for a Sonic game, especially back then. Like in Sonic Heroes, the game's characters are divided up in 3 types. Sonic and Jet are the speed category, giving them the ability to grind on rails. Tails and Wave are in the flight category, giving them the ability to, well, fly, and Knuckles and Storm are in the power category, allowing you to punch through obstacles that would normally be obstacles for other character types. And honestly, it works here. Unless you know how to cheese certain shortcuts, all of the shortcuts are pretty fun and balanced to use, something its sequel didn't carry on with. Sonic Riders has a universal constant in its level designs: sharp ass turns and spinning the control stick. Let's talk about the former. Pretty much in all the stages in this game, there's going to be a point in times where you have to use the drift, and the way drifting is set up in this game isn't that abnormal for most racing games. Hell, even Mario Kart kind of handles drifting similarly when you think about it. But since Sonic Riders is constantly moving, you aren't the one making the character's moves. The developers had to give you a button to slow down. Mario Kart has the B button to slow yourself down. Sonic Riders has the left and right triggers, which yeah, means if you want to perform a drift, you better have the control stick in the direction you want to go, because you will slow down to a screeching halt, which I would say would kill your whole flow if you couldn't just boost to get right back up to speed, and that takes little to no time at all. So yeah, drifting is a little confusing at first, but after a few times playing, it's gonna become second nature. The last big mechanic before I move on, I call these Mario Party 1 areas. Yeah, I have no clue what these are called. I think the Sonic Wiki calls these quick time events or whatever, but does these look quick to you? These sections fill up your air meter. Yes, these things run on air, just like us. Man, I need one of these things. Jokes aside, these sections are at the end or the middle section of each track. It's one big interactable cutscene to refill your air meter. Now, this isn't the only way you can refill your air meter, as participating in type shortcuts, attacking people with the B button or circle if you're on PlayStation, landing a trick, or finding these little air refill stations, which I never recommend because it does hold you for a little while, and the speeds in this game that can be reached is no joke, so every second counts. I think that's everything major about how this game works. Now we can move on. We meet back up with the gang in some sort of canyon looking area, and Knuckles is asking for the player very important questions about the plot, and Sonic shuns him off like his takes don't matter or something. Amy spawns out of nowhere, noticing the crew, and she books it to her bumbling blue tool. Sonic is visually shaken. I would be too. How the fuck did you get here? Anyway, she runs up to the crew, admitting to joining the race to stalk Sonic. Does this, then Sonic calls for Tails, who then proceeds to drop the hardest lore.
Mark?
Uh-huh. I think it was on the boards of those guys we ran into in Future City. Babylon.
Babylon?
Yes, the mark of the Babylon roads. A long time ago, there was a floating island known as Babylon Garden. Supposedly, robbers lived there. According to rumors, this legendary band, the Babylon Rogues, were great thieves. Legend also says that the Babylon Rogues incurred the wrath of the gods because of their crimes, and that the island was cast into the depths of the earth. After that, supposedly the Babylonians were then scattered for all time, never to be found. But they say that the Babylon Rogues' treasure still remains on that island, waiting to be discovered. There are also rumors that the Babylon Rogues were extreme gear specialists.
Still, how can a plank like that just float?
Nigga, you live on one yourself. Tails does this to Knuckles by being too smart for an 8-year-old. Knuckles screams at him and Waves comes out of nowhere. Where the hell did she come from? As much as you would like to say she flew in on her extreme gear, okay, I'll give you that. If that's the case, then where the hell did Amy come from? Who made her? Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. She calls Tails one of her sons, tells him to up his game, laughs at the little nigga, and walks away.
Well, I never imagined anyone would enter the race with such a piece of junk. Thanks, though. It was good for Shorty.
Sonic starts getting his get back for his homie Tails, but then the announcer says it's time to start the next race. I'm glad he intervened because Tails was getting ready to crash the fuck out. Look at him. And now we enter Splash Canyon.
Out of the pack first.
Tails the Fox is our racer here, and as stated earlier, he is our first flight type racer. This stage was actually one of my favorites when I was little. I loved water stages in Sonic. I was actually the minority that liked water stages outside of stages like Hydrocity and Water Place. Yes, I said it like that to make people mad. And while nowadays I can look at this as one of the weaker tracks, hell, it feels even shorter than the first stage, but then again, that could just be from my experience and my ability to mitigate everything. It could also be that the last stretch of the level was dead ass a straight line, but still an enjoyable track to play. I like the song that plays here, and honestly, this was one of my favorite stages to time attack back in the day, so I'll give it that. Onwards, we meet up with Knuckles in some sort of base that's clearly owned by Eggman. I mean, look at how red it is, where he bumps into the Babylon Guardian. I mean Storm, that's Storm. He's also making his way around the facility, and Macho Libre talk ensues between the two. And I don't know anyone who actually believes Storm would do any significant damage to Knuckles, but anyway, they save the beef for the racetrack after Knuckles slaps the out of this robot right here. Damn, why'd you hit Bob like that? Storm too, he clocks the shit out of this guy. And they save all the banter for the racetrack being the Egg Factory.
Begins now.
Don't get in my way.
Also Storm, you're not safe. Why the f are you looking at Knuckles like that? Egg Factory is one of those tracks that really put your knowledge of how this game works. Upper pathways shave up so much time compared to the normal ones, it's insane. We're racing through this factory and I hope you like red because you play as Knuckles and goodness, look at how everything looks. You play against Storm here and I just have to keep asking, how do they get here? Why does this factory never come back in any Sonic media? And how did Eggman get away with turning this into a racetrack? I can't lie, this is one of my favorites to run through nowadays simply because of the music, man. It's so good. Lots of lava and fans everywhere. Again, why is this a racetrack? This stage is definitely meant to be played multiple times because look at that minimap, man. That minimap ain't helping nobody. At the end of the stage before the auto sessions, you have two paths you are presented with. Never, and I repeat, never take this path to the right because this turn can take you from first to second or third if there's racers behind you. Always take the left path. This leads straight to the stage's on rails area without needing to trick off a ramp and drift the corner. Hell, there's even a 100 ring capsule right here, which takes you straight up to level 3, another mechanic I forgot to mention. This is actually really good level design. This path is way harder in the grand scheme of just taking the normal route, and you risk falling off of the track if you can't align yourself correctly. Good stage, I like it a lot. I guess the only thing that I can say that sucks about this stage is the power characters have some of the weakest shortcuts. Look at this wall that takes you behind the stage for a trick ramp. Like yes, this is cool, but it's just so damn slow.
That's cool! Sonic! When did you learn those techniques?
Not very impressive for someone of your reputation. You know, I've checked you out actually. Not bad. I admit you're pretty fast on your feet. But here, it's a whole different story when riding with extreme gear. You see, to be the fastest on a gear, you have to become one with the wind. Without wings, well, you might as well kiss the ground and go home.
We're back as Tails in this one and we are racing Wave instead of Jet versus Sonic for some reason. And this is indeed a stage. Look, I won't stand at this stage. It looks visually appealing in the song. Boy, I almost forgot to play the intro for it.
Music out of the pack first.
I just don't like this stage's main gimmick, these vines that pull your camera back and it looks to offer different paths, but in order to access these different paths you either need to be a flight character or behind somebody, which this is a racing game, sir. There's not really much else to talk about here. If you're a power character you can punch through some grapes and that's honestly pretty cool. Oh, and giant centipede. Oh, and spider webs. Yeah, it's spider webs, 100%. I forgot. The last stage of the hero story converges in the Sand Ruins, a desert area in the middle of nowhere. Dude, where are these effing locales? Both respective teams place their Chaos Emeralds on the table before them, and Jet offers Sonic some more friendly words.
Set here in Sand Ruins. The rules are still the same. Anything goes in this extreme race. Although it needs no further explanation, the
You're lucky you got this far. It obviously wasn't due to your skills. I won't lose now.
Get ready! It's time for the final race to begin!
Bring it on!
We're back racing as Sonic in this one, and racing amongst this track, Sonic Team really wants you to feel like this is the last track in a Grand Prix, starting in a whole stadium. I hope Eggman gave these people some water. Sure, the sun is cooking them right now. Leaving the arena leads into the sandy field that leads into a jump where each character can then participate in their type shortcuts, where they then converge inside of the ruins. Now this is huge foreshadowing, but we're not going to get into that right now. The little details they put here really stand out when you remember you're supposed to be in the middle of freaking nowhere. This stage's automatic rail is a little different here, instead being a bow that you have to charge up, launching yourself out of the ground back into the arena. The more you charge by spinning the control stick, the farther you go, bouncing off of the roof and even landing on the finish line if you charge fast enough. Rinse and repeat for 2 more laps, and that's it for the hero story.
Ah, the dirt suits you so well. Ugh.
Yeah, those bird brains cheated. They attached a bomb, well, Wave specifically, attached a bomb to Sonic's board. And why, you may ask? Well, it's up and coming. But for the time being, Jet is high and mighty off his cheating ass, and he goes for the treasure, really hinting that the rival was about to get a super form. But now, with the biggest of hindsight, well, the Chaos Emeralds surround the cube and they have influence over this thing somehow, and you might be asking, what the hell is this? We aren't there yet. After a transition to CGI, the cube fires off a beam of light far away from the arena where a new floating island comes out of the earth. And if you were paying attention to what Tails said earlier, you would put this together as the fabled Babylon Garden.
Babylon Garden.
Well, that and Eggman just yoinking this thing from Jet, but you know. Amy, being the first person to actually notice anything, jumps on Eggman's mech in an attempt to stop him. Props to her. When was the last time Amy did anything this impactful? Jet finally realized what happens like 9 years late, and Sonic Team gives chase towards Dr. Robotnik. Moving back to in-game cutscenes, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles are on the tornado looking for Eggman. Finally spotting the bald man, Sonic gets ready to jump after him, but Tails stops him to introduce a new board for Sonic, the Blue Star Mark II. And look, I know there's supposed to be differences in the stats, but what's so different about this board? Yeah, it looks cleaner than the first, I suppose, but why couldn't this have been his main board? Sonic normally gets the more cooler items out his adventures. I don't know, to this day I seriously wonder what was so important. Oh yeah, Wave blew his shit up, I'm not gonna lie. I forgot. Jet makes an appearance from out of nowhere, but this time it makes sense because he's on his hoverboard, so it makes sense to just say he flew down from the stadium below, but often these characters forget they can fly with these things. Anyway, moving on to the true final race, to the hero story, Babylon Garden.
Take a look at this. I'll show you what true speed really is. All right, bring it on.
Now this stage here is difficult. Not the hardest stage in this game, that's definitely coming up, but goodness, the spike in difficulty is crazy. I remember actually taking a few tries to beat this when I was younger, which is crazy to me because from 4-year-old me to present age me, this game is easy as f. I waited until now to talk about the turbulence mechanic because this stage has a whole section built around it. Turbulence is this wind drag that racers produce if they're going fast enough in certain areas, or almost around every corner you need to use the drift button. Here you can trick off the ramps the wind makes to refuel your air. Also, you don't lose any air here since, well, you're cruising along it, my friend. I see this track as just 2 halves, the beginning half before the turbulence area and the half after that, which feels equal in length. but this does have the feeling, at least for me, that we're just going in a straight line. And this rail here that takes you around this entire turning section really proves my point. And I know you can just not use the shortcut, but who wants to not use what the game has for them to mess around with? This stage is a true testament of the hero's story. It really asks for everything you've learned to be used here. And once you figure out a strategy that helps you succeed in this race, because these CPUs are constantly on your behind no matter how fast you go, after your third lap, you beat Jet once and for all. Unlocking the Babylon story, and there's a cutscene after this race, but let's talk about the Babylon story first to wrap up this game. Starting before the hero story, Jet and his crew are flying somewhere above Sonic's world, and Jet is holding that cube that he randomly pulled out in the hero story. I hope the game explains that. Storm comes bursting in, talking about some "boss, we have a problem," interrupting Jet in his thinking process. Wave comes out of nowhere, making fun of his inability to knock. Wait, where does she come from? Who's flying? Wave comments about his inability to knock, and Storm asks about the cube. Jet explains he got it from his father, and Storm makes a comment suspiciously similar to what Tails had said down in the canyons.
I wonder, could it be true? Could our ancestors have left behind hidden treasures that's just waiting to be discovered?
An argument between Storm and Wave ensues, and Storm says something pretty striking.
You always say you only want this or that. Remember the teachings of our ancestors. Be careful what you ask for. Ultimately, you'll only get 3 true wishes.
Remember that. Jet screams at him and cuts them off, and Storm starts stumbling over why he came in here. He stumbles over the word Eggman, and then Eggman eventually walks in to speak with Jet. He spits his proposition at the young bird to see if he's up to the task, and he agrees, because the task at hand is as simple as any jewel heist for him. That's until Eggman shows him a hologram of Sonic. Why do you have that? Eggman somehow also overheard that Jet holds the key to Babylon guarding, another foreshadow moment, and he spots it in the hands of Storm. Jet laughs at Sonic for his supposed inability to use an extreme gear, and then we get started with the first race of the Babylon story, Night Chase.
No way I'm gonna lose.
4 races at the starting line, and there's Sonic. Well, if you aren't able to put the pieces together, this is the playable version of the first cutscene we see in the hero's story, even down to Tails and Knuckles not being here. This level is definitely way harder than the original by a mile, with the abundance of police cars everywhere, and you're playing as a speed character, so you're guaranteed to get hit by one of these things. Playing the stage as a power character isn't that bad, because 9 times out of 10 this upper shortcut doesn't launch you into a car, but the layout of the stage is extremely similar to the original stage. I think this track setting is supposed to be happening underneath the city where all the power lines and all that stuff goes. And the area they seem to come from after this turn seems to be the area that you were able to trick off in the original portion of the track, which is pretty cool. I like continuity like that. Moving on, we catch up to the heroes. Hey, not too long without seeing these guys, and we're watching this cutscene from Wave's perspective. She actually had props to give to the young fox about his design, but thinking her group is in it for the money because, you know, bounty hunters, she puts a bomb on Sonic's board, and you know what happens after that. The cutscene plays out the same way, but this time we are in Red Canyon facing Amy. Okay, now this stage is extremely similar to the original. Actually, all of the stages that are up and coming are extremely similar, well, besides a couple, but we're not there yet. This stage's main difference is that you go inside the canyons instead of the path around it. The automatic rail section is still the same, and the ending is a little different as you don't go through a wind turbine as you ride up it to hit a trick ramp. And the rest of this track actually plays out just like the original. Not too much to say about this one other than the fact that it happens during a sunset, and sunset in Sonic games always look gorgeous, so this stage gets a pass from me. Back at the barnyard this time, which seems to be the next morning, Storm comes crashing through the doors, exclaiming the fact that he just lost to the Red Mutt. Like any sore loser nowadays, he claims that the person who was able to beat him was cheating, and Wave comes in and tells Storm what everybody else is thinking.
What? Are you implying that you lost because of my gear? No one can tune a gear the way I can. Accept it, buddy. It's not the board. Your skills just suck.
What? Suck?
Yes, S-U-C-K, suck.
Jet tells them to shut the hell up one more time and then orders Storm to go sneak into Eggman's base to find some secrets that Eggman claims to be hiding. Jet just has a feeling in his feathers or something, and Storm agrees.
Get a great start.
for this?
Ice Factory is probably my favorite stage out of both stories, I'll be real here. The fire/lava tropes for levels always got boring for me pretty fast, but the one thing about this stage that doesn't make sense, since as prior to the last cutscene, Storm got eliminated from the World Grand Prix, why are we doing 3 laps around this factory? Like, okay, I get it, I understand in terms of gameplay, this is a racing game, but why? I think I'm looking too deep into this. Moving on. It seems like this is where the developers really started putting effort into trying to make the second half of these stages unique, because besides the beginning of the stage, this stage feels completely different from the Heroes side track. And I like how they keep the continuity, like the 100 ring monitor being somewhere in the same place. Something about this track just feels different, even though at the end of the day I know this is just a frozen over egg factory, but it wins my heart all the same.
Huh?
What's taking Storm so long?
Just sit down and relax. Chill, Wave.
Really, Jet? How can you be so relaxed at a time like this? Don't you see? As the leader, you've got responsibilities. Some you understand, but you...
Huh? I think it's time for a little fun.
Huh? Hey, Jet! You come back here, right now! Why do I even bother? Unless I take charge, nothing ever gets done here.
This is honestly my favorite cutscene in the entire game. It's crazy how relatable this is. Everyone has that one person who just constantly... and you just wanna...
Get a great start!
No way I'm gonna lose.
White Jungle is the next stage, and we're racing as Jet again. I give this stage more grace than the original, to be honest. I don't know why. The gimmick of this stage is still exactly the same, giant centipedes and spiderwebs, but I like this one more. It just kind of flows better. Through very specific, and I mean very specific, you're able to reach some of the different paths right before the giant centipede area, and while unfortunately it's still designed for the flight characters, you still can get up there, although it's pretty finicky. Ultimately, it's a solid stage. Again, I love the music for this track, and I think just playing as a speed character just fits. Like I said, I think Sonic and Jet should have raced here first in the hero story to set this race up, but since Jet doesn't race anybody, I guess that's just how the story went. We're wrapping back up towards the end of the Babylon story, and Storm meets back up with Wave and Jet at the Sand Ruins, where he says that he actually did find something worthwhile after, you know, racing against robots. He pulls an excerpt for Eggman's diary, explaining his true intentions for holding the World Grand Prix.
Treasure was just a gem. I can't believe they fell for it.
What fools! Can you believe the real treasure is the ancient but advanced technology of the Babylonians? What irony! I found a story about a boy who received an angel wing from the Babylonians as a gift. The story says that with it, the boy was able to rule the world. And this was just a gift. I'm anxious to find this technology as soon as possible. Imagine the vast possibilities of the technology they must have kept for themselves.
So that means these little bird brains had an idea that this entire thing was gonna be a facade. I mean, hell, even Jet was completely okay with walking away from this entire thing because at least this guy has morals, but Wave was able to convince this Niguard to continue the races under the basis that this ancient technology is worth more than any bounty they've ever completed.
Or gold!
Dark Desert is our next race, taking place during a solar eclipse, giving more depth to the underground area outside of the main arena. In this little town outside of the desert? I really appreciate Sonic Team trying to flesh out the world building. Racing amongst the town is completely different from racing above or anywhere in a setting that's not directly in said town. And it leads right into the stadium, which makes me believe these two areas are connected, but it also could just be for gameplay, and I'm once again thinking too deep into something. The inner area really highlights the technology of the ancient Babylonians. Anti-gravity, walls to ride on, a warp area that doubles as the map's auto section, and these damn sphinxes. I don't know if you've noticed, but these guys look like Jet. Now, do these have an importance?
No.
I think they're here to represent that this is in fact a clan of birds, but that's up in the air. Now again, for gameplay differences, this track is marginally different from its Heroes counterpart, but here's my thing. This cutscene takes place right after the Heroes race, as you can clearly see. It's during the day. The eclipse didn't happen yet. When did they have time to race again during the eclipse? They raced one more time before they went up to Babylon anyway. Beating this race catches both stories back up, and here's where the game converges into the quote, final part of the story.
Newsflash. A mysterious airborne object has just appeared above the site where the X-World Grand Prix is being held. Apparently, Sonic and his friends have gone to investigate. We'll try and get more details right after this important announcement.
Wave, Storm, Niggles, and Tails all land somewhere else for their last and final confrontation before their last race, and honestly Knuckles would solo both of these birds in an instant. We were teased of a fight from these two, but Sonic Team sucks, and I mean it wouldn't have been much of a fair fight anyways. But the crew gets spotted by a bunch of Eggman robots, so the crew
Hightailed it out of here.
but not after some racism from Wave.
Forget the red mutt. Let's go, Storm.
Did she say red mutt?
You think you can win with that board?
Sky Road, and can I just say, this is indeed the hardest stage in the game, by a mile. If you don't know this game's mechanics by now, you'll have to retry this stage multiple times, couple extra times, couple hundred times. The turbulence mechanic that was highlighted in the hero story makes a return here if you somehow missed it in the hero story, and you pretty much need to use your type shortcuts to stay ahead of the CPUs. That and one more secret. You see this auto section right here? Check it. So before you get on it, you have two tricks. Now we've been over this before. You can either hold down for a higher jump or you hold forward to just get a normal jump. What do you think you should do here? You goddamn right, you better hold down to get the high jump to take a shortcut to shave off so much time with this auto shortcut. It's pretty much mandatory. If you do not take this shortcut, you're putting yourself at a huge disadvantage. Now, with all that in mind, you know what happens after you complete your third lap. Okay, the only reason why I spaced this video like that was because this game does the whole two-side story trope from Adventure 2, but without the whole final story option a main story game would actually offer. But with that being said, returning to Sonic's point of view after racing Jet in the Heroes story, we cut to a cutscene where Sonic gets to conveniently cross the placed finish line and Jet literally just dies. Sonic is like 10 seconds away from turning Eggman into a Benedict, and to counteract that, he pulls out Amy from the bush. Yeah, isn't she like 12? Sonic sees this as an opportunity to dive bomb Amy and Eggman. Holy shit, he just kinda did it, sending the both of them away. Judd is impressed but doesn't want to sound like a fan, and then proceeds to babble about how he didn't win fairly, so he doesn't want the treasure, and ends up giving up the cube. Wave is like, bro, what is your problem? And then they take the cube and walk off. Amy screams at her bumbling boo tool, chases him with her Pico Pico hammer, hits him a few times, and roll credits. Nah, I'm just kidding.
What? Finally, something interesting.
Look, Sonic, the door's closing!
Hurry up! Whoa, what's this?
So is that your dad?
What?
We have reached our final stage. Babylon Guardian is our final stage in this game, and this stage still scares the hell out of me. This place is terrifying, man. They cooked with the design of this track. It really looks like he just dragged the characters down to the depths of hell and said, yeah, I got a race for me now. In my opinion, this is the most apocalyptic a track has ever sounded in a Sonic game, so uber props for that. I mean, it's supposed to be a, quote, digital dimension, as the name of the song implies, but it hits you right in the gut, especially the beginning. Now, I'm not sure if the various amount of dialogue in this game tipped you off, but this is supposed to be a genie. As you can see, that right there is his lamp. So the whole point of this stage slash boss fight is to bop into the little guy and to cross the finish line in the digital side to cross the lap. If you don't bop the genie's lamp, you'll just continue to loop around the stage, although I think you only have a 5-minute timer to do so in the story mode. One thing you might have noticed if you're going slow enough is that you might see your fellow CPUs with different colored trails behind them, because for some reason they can get level 2 and or 3 here when all we get is air. Thanks, Sega. And after you hit the genie 3 times, you beat the game.
Too awestruck by the treasure to notice me, eh?
Eggman!
Now hand over the treasure! What's so funny? Hand over the treasure right now!
Okay, catch!
The treasure of Babylon is finally mine! Huh? What is this thing? A piece of cloth? Let's see. This looks interesting. At long last, we've completed our ultimate invention. With this, our lives will be easier without the need to work so hard to keep ourselves flying. Stolen, the 13th leader of the Babylon Rogues.
Yeah, all of this goes out of the window in like 2 minutes. So yeah, Eggman realized he wasted his time, flops, and Storm slaps the shit out of Wave.
Hey, I wanted to say that.
We should split too, right?
Yes.
So that was Sonic Riders. Yeah, that took a long time. What the fuck? I wasn't expecting it to take that long to review that game, because this game is honestly not that long. But looking back at the video now, I realized I took a while to explain how this game works, and for very good reason. This game does have a very big soft spot for me. Like I said, this is my first video game ever, second being Sonic Adventure 2. So that's probably another reason as to why this video was so long. There's just a lot of passion behind this game for me. But as you can clearly see by that bar down there, yeah, this video is nowhere near done. We have a whole nother game to talk about. Hey, how's it going? It's Daffy here, just checking in, making sure we're all good. We're 45 minutes in. Do you guys got your snacks, your popcorn? Did you hit the like button? Did you subscribe? We can take a moment to do that right now. Anyway, enjoy this rendition until the next game. Sonic Riders Zero Gravity. Now, before we get started with this one, I have a short hot take. Yeah, I like this game more than the original game. Hey, listen, can you hear me out? Listen, can we listen?
I get it!
Okay. First of all, Everything you knew about the first game, throw it out of the window right now, immediately. You see this? Yeah, just throw it out. This game is completely different from the original in all aspects, except for the fact that the game automatically moves itself forward for you. I wasn't kidding when I said this game has been dumbed down. This is baby's first racing game if I've ever played one, but I still love this game. This game is still too much fun, regardless of what others think. This game has a built-in base drop mechanic, like what? There's still so much I can say about these games, but I'm saving that for when we get to the extras part of the video. This game has a story, so how about we tackle that first. The cast and crew from the first game are returning, so we're going to be tackling the story in chronological order. Starting sometime before the game's plot kicks off, the Babylon rogues stumble upon ancient ruins somewhere on Sonic's planet where they find one of the titular gravity rings. In a reference that's clearly to Indiana Jones, Jet just knows the password to this thing to try to stop the trapper coming off, so he claims. He then puts his grubby little mitts on the gravity ring, and nothing happened.
I got it!
Wave then sees a shooting star and starts wishing over the shooting star. Storm berates her for doing that, which is kind of strange because remember these are the descendants of genies, but then Storm looks over and sees Jet wishing on the star as well.
Alright, Star. Give me the power to beat it!
Man, what a fan. The shooting star lands on the planet, which rocks the area around them and sets off the trap. And instead of just running away, or hell, where are your guys' boards at? They just kind of stand there and wait for these rocks to fall on them. But the ring goes off.
Looks like my wish came true already! No way I'm gonna lose!
For our first event, we are in Gigan Device. Yeah, notice how I said event instead of race. This is supposed to be a racing game, but the story mode as to why we are racing makes absolutely no sense. I'm going to keep the same formula of showing off each racer and stage while jumping back and forth between storage, as that's just a chronological way to do things. But let's look at this mission real quick. Escape from the ruins. Hey, we actually have a time limit here, but it's just 3 of us racing around one area 3 times. I'm a little confused. The simplicity of this game definitely kills it for a lot of people. I don't blame it. It oversimplified a lot of things. Like basic controls. You actually have to think about the controls to play this game, which you don't want to think about any controls when you're playing a video game. That's just video game 101. I won't lie, the controls do take a while to get used to. It's not your traditional racer, but it's not that hard to the point where I'd say these controls are flat out bad. I mean, if you don't want to use the Wii remote, you can use the GameCube controller. This game also released on the PS2, so if you don't want to play this on Dolphin, you can also use PCSX2 to play the PlayStation version of this game, which I am weird enough to point out has a few differences between each game, but I don't think I'm going to be addressing those in this video. Let me know if you want me to do that in the comment section below. We have a very similar starting line to the first game. You must back up to build some speed, then cross the line as soon as the timer hits 0. Actually, the first stage of the hero story actually does this for you to kind of give you an idea of what to do, and I like that more than a dedicated tutorial because it's continuity. It happens right after this cutscene, and I mean the game pretty much shoves the tutorial down your throat this time when you try to play the story mode, so you can't say the game doesn't try to teach you how to play. Gigan Device really screams tutorial level for some reason, which is really odd because you can't play the stage until you beat the hero story. Granted, I figured they thought we weren't going to play both stories back to back, and I can't speak much for the multiplayer side. Yes, these games do have multiplayer. Again, a lot of stuff I didn't mention I'm just saving for later. This stage is really good at introducing the game's mechanic. Hell, even better than the first stage, I might say. Was this supposed to be the first stage in the hero story, but they didn't make sense, so they scrapped it and made it Megalo Station, then heavily shoved the tutorial in here? That's exactly what they did, didn't they? Huh. Wow. Let's get up to speed with the two main new mechanics first. First off is gravity control. This shit is nothing like the drift from the original game. Like I said, it's a glorified bass drop mechanic. But in my opinion, the way the gameplay changes the music makes it better than any drift in my opinion. Yeah, it might slow the game down, but this isn't as fast as the first game, so I don't try to play it like the first game. And while I admit a bunch of the complaints for this game are valid, a lot of the mechanics have been oversimplified, like the removal of the boost mechanic and the removal of the air meter, now being replaced with this GP meter, which allocates how long you can use your gravity abilities. Like, I understand Sonic Team had to make do with the Wii remote, but the sequel of a game having less to do in it than the original just doesn't sit right with me. So I can understand why this game received the reputation it did. Unless you like this game more than the average Sonic fan like I do, there's no reason to come back to play this game after you beat it. The next mechanic I would like to talk about is this game replacement for the boost. This is called the gravity dive. If you're using a controller, you press and hold one of the shoulder buttons to get your character to charge the gravity ring, and then you start shooting forward for as long as you have the button held down. If you're using motion controls on the Wii, you just have to flick your Wiimote up and flick it again to stop the move when you're ready to stop. You're heavily encouraged to bounce off of things that are flying in front of you. This pushes your character forward, and I like this as a science nerd because in space, if you're speeding at something and you hit something, you're gonna bounce off of that at the exact same speed. Speeding up might be a little exaggerated, but I'm gonna let it slide, it's a racing game. But other than that, those are the two main mechanics that this game has to offer. The rest of this game feels like a dumbed down version of the original. And I have such a strong feeling that these changes were to compensate the fact that you were supposed to play this game with a Wiimote, like not being able to control your tricks, the heavy reliance on motion controls instead of using the D-pad if you are using the Wii remote. Again, the complete omitting of the boost for this situational ass mechanic that you can't even use besides being in the dedicated spaces for it. I understand that the complaints of the first game was that it's too complicated, but that's because they hid the tutorial in the damn options menu. Like, that was completely on them. But for them to just completely simplify everything and then shove a tutorial down our throats is like them saying, yeah, you guys don't know how to play video games, so not only did we make everything easier, but we're still gonna attempt to tell you how to play because y'all just seem to complain about everything. This game came out in 2008. YouTube was barely in its early stages of life, so Let's Plays weren't really all that common. You really had to trial and error these games back in the day to understand how these games work. And to top it all off, you want to know what other motion controlled racing game came out in 2008 that's critically acclaimed and turned out to be one of the best racing games on the Wii console? Yeah, this game was competing with Mario Kart Wii. The last mechanic I like to talk about before we move on, not really a mechanic, more like a discrepancy, is the fact that there are no type shortcuts anymore. Well, not exactly. Type shortcuts were tied to your character back in the original game. Now they are tied to the board you're using, which, I'm not gonna lie, is a little mid. Now you're locked into one style of race, which I can see how that would work for balancing, but the type shortcuts in this game were pretty bad anyways, so you can't take multiple type shortcuts at once like in the original game, which is the one downgrade I can't agree with. Trying to mix and match which shortcuts made choosing characters and boards so fun in the original. But now, since type shortcuts are tied to the board with how they work in this game, in the top left corner of your screen you'll have 3 icons. Every 30 or so rings you'll unlock a new gear for your board. That's literally the only way I can put it, because if I typed out you have to unlock your character's type shortcuts, I know how that sounds, and I'm pretty sure you'd want to look at Sonic Team like this. Yeah, I agree, this is a pretty weird change, I'm not gonna lie, because it's not like the gear is any different. Every character's main board has their type shortcut locked behind level 2, which is around 40 or 50 rings. You can choose what type shortcut to unlock by just not unlocking the previous one and going over the amount of rings you need to unlock whatever gear comes after level 1. But once you go past a certain amount of rings for a specific gear, if you collect any more and you go to the final gear, you can't go back. You have to unlock the last gear, then potentially unlock whatever gear you want to use when you reach the allotted amount of rings. Yeah, this is really weird gameplay, because now their characters are just glued to their boards. So now with all that out of the way, I think we're clear on this game's mechanic. Finishing this race takes us back to the cruise ship, where Wave explains that there are 5 of these things and that they attract to one another, and that there are 4 more that they need to collect. Jet orders Waves to get started on an arc fighting radar, and then the Babylon Guardian Storm bursts into the room again to show a video of a robot breaking into a safe, stealing another of the rings. Jet then proceeds to set his course for Megalo City to check it out.
Full throttle!
Roger that, boss.
Ha! These things really do attract one another.
I hope you're ready for this.
Nightside Rush is our next stage here, and we're playing as the Muscle. It seems like we're supposed to be chasing that robot that stole that ring earlier that morning. So Storm is just chasing a whole bunch of robots for the time being while going through the first stage of the hero story in reverse. And with 3 laps of that, we can move along and we can finally introduce our heroes. For them, it actually starts the same night as the Babylon story. We just get the cinematic overarching view of what happened. This ring right here, this is the main unit, and this robot is the main villain. This ring had a large enough energy spike to hijack all of these robots into doing its bidding. And remembering what Wave said about these things earlier, these group of robots seem to be off to find the other rings. The next morning, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles are rolling around at the speed of 40 miles an hour, while Sonic just has one of these things. Tails explains how he got it, and it's just kind of, yeah.
Last night?
Yeah, the sound of the impact woke me from my sleep, and I found it outside.
Me too, Knuckles.
We'll be at Megalo Station shortly.
The heroes make their way inside and they get spotted by a security camera. Knuckles, being the only person with situational awareness, notices something is going astray. Then robots start attacking our fellow heroes. Tails loses all sense of direction until Sonic points out an elevator, and Sonic and Knuckles use common sense to make sense of the situation, and Tails is still scared shitless. But as the driver of this rig, he has his moment. That moment being launching them out of building. Well, where the fuck else were they supposed to go? Yeah, Sonic dies after this. Knuckles, how the fuck are you flying?
What's going on? Is this the stone's power?
Megalo Station is our first official area of this game. This is your first race on the new save file, and here's where most people would explain the controls and how the game works, but since I already did that, I can just talk about this stage. And as much as I like it, I really do, and this shit's just a triangle, bro. The stage's theme is spectacular, possibly one of my favorite stage themes in the whole history of Sonic in my opinion. This, besides the aquatic capital area, all of the game's tutorial missions takes place here, so you'll hear this stage a lot before any other theme. That's really all I have to say about Megalo Station because it's the tutorial level, there's not much to say about it, but I can't lie, this doesn't have the low entry barrier like Gigan Device does. Moving on, Jet caught off with the rogue robot from the prior night and proceeds to wombo combo the hell out of this guy. But at the same time, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles are hiding from the robots that was chasing them from the Megalo Station area. Jet folded the robot he was chasing, hits one of these, then proceeds to give chase, and Storm and Wave follow into the biodome. On the flip side, Amy quite literally yeets this nigga Sonic back. Holy shit, Amy's strong as hell. She then proceeds to explain where the hell she came from and drops the gravity ring the robot had. Jet almost loses it and almost tweaks the fuck out until his 2 cronies tell him to lock in. They then head up to their next area to get the jump before the heroes and potentially take the rings from them. The heroes are spotted by Eggman's robots and they make their way out of there as well.
You think you can win with that board?
Now I must make this clear here, we are going chronologically so the Babylon story takes precedence over the heroes. Snowy Kingdom is our next stage, but on the first run you'd be playing the hero version of this stage. Ice stages in Sonic will always have an up and over lava levels in my opinion. The icy blue sits right with the bright fucking red. It did just hit me that there are no lava levels in this game. Wave the bird brain is running from these robots again to make it to Meteor Tech before the heroes, so with that being said, we can switch to the heroes side and look at Tails and his version of the stage.
I'll do my best.
Sonic and friends deduce that they need to make their way to Mediotech, so we play as Tails to make our way out of this biodome. Lots of bugs and foliage everywhere. It really goes to show how small Sonic and Co are in the grand scheme of their universe. Well, if you don't count SA1, I guess. Tails and Wave are both flight type characters, so to achieve that you must achieve 40 rings to gear change into whatever this is supposed to be, and then you can finally fly off launch ramps. Hell, these motherfuckers won't even turn on if you're not using one of these. After this race, the heroes rendezvous at the Meteortech facility, and I think I'll just let the cutscene explain everything.
Looks like we'll need to watch our step.
Dave!
Look out! What? That's... It's been a while, Sonic the Hedgehog. Jet?
Long time no see, Shorty. Wave!
We're here to settle the score from last time.
Anytime, Babylon rogues.
Cut it out, Storm. All right, Kirby. Hand over the Ark of the Cosmos.
What are you talking about?
Don't play dumb. Not after swiping the Ark of the Cosmos right out of our hands.
Hey, hold up a minute. Girls hate guys who rush them, Jet.
Rush? Ha! I'm the fastest thing in the universe. And today, I'm gonna prove it.
Now, what correlation did that have to what Sonic said just now, Mr. Jet the Hawk?
Sonic, we can't stay here.
Looks like we'll have to do the reunion later. See ya, Jet.
Hey, wait!
Don't get in my way!
Meteortech Premises is next, and we're playing as Kniggles the Echidna. I personally think this is the best designed track in this game. It really feels like you're breaking into this place. The alarms constantly blaring when you reach certain areas of the track, literally destroying the walls of Eggman's facility to find our way to him. We actually race Wave here, and this is the first time we actually have to race someone. I'm not counting the Gigan device, there was only 3 of them, come on now. The mission states we need to make our way to the control room, so I guess they just gentlemen and decided to race for it, I don't know. But on the other half of this game, Storm is sticking to the duties of his father and became a guardian for Amy to try to make her way past. Amy remembers she's a strong woman who only needs Sonic and breaks out her Pico hammer and whacks the hell out of Storm. This indeed will not be the last time this little girl assaults this bird.
Not gonna hold back.
Meteortech Sparkworks is up next on the Babylon side of things, and we're playing as Amy? Why aren't we playing as Storm? Anyway, Amy making herself playable in this game instead of just being annoying like in the first game. Okay, I won't hinder her appearance in the first game. She was the first person to notice Eggman was actually up to something. But we can actually race as her here, and she's not in uniform. So we're fleeing from Storm. I guess that's why we play as Amy here, because if that's the case, I'm pretty sure the game would have forced us to lose like in Sand Ruins in the first game. But that's just how the story's played out. I can't really say much about this stage. They seem to race in the back half of the facility where all the mechanical shit is. Hell, even the trick ramp seems to be power cells that spread electricity when you land. Not my favorite stage in the game, but replayable for sure.
You can use that power too?
Pretty handy, really.
Engage EM algorithm. Maximum value. Access mother computer. Mother computer access denied.
Why? What's this racket, and now of all times? Huh?
What went flying just now?
Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Jet, and Wave all burst through the room where they begin to interrogate Eggman about the global robot rampage. We learn that Eggman has the main unit stored in his mother computer, that being this little thing I showed you at the beginning of the game. Come to find out that the robots that attack the heroes are indeed owned by Eggman. He slipped up after frantically asking Sonic where he got his arc from. Eggman deduced that the reason the robots are going crazy was because the power signal in the computer is similar to the power signal the SCR HD robot has been holding. Eggman uses that energy to track 2 of the arcs, the one that Amy is holding and the SCR HD robot that has another one of the arcs in his chest plate.
I'll do my best.
Alright, we made it. This is peak Sonic Racing right here. Bruh, I love this stage so much. I absolutely love this stage. It's literally a giant water park. What can you expect? Yes, because of the big tube sections at the end. This stage's area has the best song in the game by far, not counting the main menu theme, but goodness, there's just something about this stage that hits all the right spots for my neurological ass. And with a W stage. Like, listen to this. This race isn't as important as we aren't being chased by anyone anymore. The rest of the ACR robots probably needed to charge, I don't know. But after racing with Tails and Co, we meet up with Amy and the now destroyed robot. But before we continue this cutscene, let's rewind a little bit.
Hold up!
You ever give up? Fine, if you want it that bad. I'll give it to you.
Yeah, he should be dead, not gonna lie.
Where the heck am I?
Amy helps this bird brain up, and SCRHD runs up on the both of them like he's from the Bronx and just stares at the gravity ring, examining it with his laser until it just well. Storm looks inside the robot to find the arc that was hitting inside of that robot and runs off with it. Amy, being Amy, doesn't chase him, instead just sits there and growls at them. Bro, you used up both of your specials, now you have no moves, what the fuck? Not gonna lie, it feels weird seeing them here, knowing what part of the track they're on.
I hope you're ready for this!
Storm makes his way back to Jet after 3 laps of fun, I guess, and he makes his way on the Babylon ship. There's not really much to say about this track other than the fact that it follows the same lat as the original, and instead of a huge water slide at the end, they ride in what looks to be a giant sewer. Back to the heroes, Amy beats up Sonic for taking too long. It would have been faster if he wasn't racing Tails. I imagine Amy watching them race before they finally decided to help. Man, I wish I knew how to animate, man. That would have been super funny. Sonic is in disbelief after being told one of Eggman's robots just up and exploded, and Amy told the crew that Storm
Hightailed it out of here.
So does this mean the rampaging robots will all cool it?
I don't think it's that simple. If Eggman started all this by putting that stone in his mother computer, I don't think it'll stop until we remove it.
So where is that?
Amy, not being able to remember what Storm said earlier, gave Knuckles everything he needed to know by saying
Giga, something like that. Wait, Gigan.
2 syllables.
The Gigan rocks.
So that's exactly where they go.
Don't get in my way!
Ah, Gigan rocks. My second favorite level in this entire game. Water park aesthetics wins for me over everything. I'm sorry, if the water level is fun, I'm all for it, but the Gigan rocks, like Knuckles said, has been a place for treasure hunters to go and make wishes, thus this place being like a wishing well for them. And as per the last cutscene,
About shooting stars tells of some star shard sealed there that can grant your wishes. Nobody's made it back alive yet.
but we started with the Babylon story, so we know that they made it out of there alive, so we're heading to check it out. The stage is extremely similar to Sand Ruins in the fact that you somewhat start in an arena and you make your way underground, then you come back out to repeat the lap. It's not a one-to-one, but you can clearly see where they took inspiration from. And I can't lie, when I was little, I used the song to get perfect starts on these maps every time. If you hold the control stick back and run forward in time with the music, you'll get a perfect start every time. And that shit is so satisfying. Just watch. Taking in the scenery and taking 3 laps around this course leads us to our next cutscene, and this is the exact same area the Babylon Rogue started in. Knuckles, noticing that the treasure isn't there, and insinuating that Knuckles knew of these arcs of the cosmos way before any of the heroes or even Babylonians. Now there's a lot of exposition here that I don't really want to explain, but Knuckles and Tails can do it for me.
What's up with this painting?
The Divine Wings.
Divine wings?
Yes, the legendary bird that the gods rode through the heavens. Knuckles, see if you can read this inscription.
The divine wings, straddler of stars, lose their plumes to the dark and fall to the ground. The plumes become as stars returning to this land. We, the children of Babylon.
Babylon?
What connection do they have with these stones?
We still don't know that. But could the stones those robots are after be the plumes written about here? The Divine Wings, Straddler of Stars. Could they be power units used to operate some starship?
So this divine wings thing is...
Right. Babylon Guardian.
Yeah, let's be real here, this thing looks like a spaceship. I get it's supposed to invoke Angel Island vibes, but at least we know it was the Master Emerald that was making this thing float. Babylon Garden needed a key, and even then the garden rose from the earth and started floating. This did not surprise me at all as a kid. Sonic notices Jet and Eggman flying overhead, and Tails asks Knuckles to finish the inscription. I'm not going to play the cutscene again, but Knuckles reads the coordinates to where the Babylonians buried one of the rings, and Tails notices the direction Jet and Eggman were flying, so they follow a note. But before we do that, we have to go back in time one more time. After Storm makes his way to the Babylonian ship after Tempest water race, Storm is ecstatic to show
Not bad, Storm. Not bad.
Storm was ecstatic to show Jet that he did what he asked, but he came back with one more. The Babylon Rogues now have 3 Arc of the Cosmos in their possession, and with Sonic Team with 1 and Dr. Eggman with 1 in the main unit in his mother computer, Eggman sneaks on the ship in the stealthiest way possible. Nigga, I gotta talk about this real quick. I'm sorry, pause everything. How in the dog walk fuck did he do that? You mean to tell me he was not only able to sneak past 3 of these bird brains, but these niggas don't have any alarms, securities, nothing? I genuinely wonder how the Factobalar was able to do this, much less stealing from 3 people that were staring at the objects in the same room. This is probably one of the biggest plot contrivances I've ever seen in a video game. We get no explanation for how Eggman was able to do this, and the only way that I've ignored it for so long was because I had to headcanon that the first time Eggman approached Jet in the first game, he must have mapped out the entire ship before going to talk to Jet, because remember, Storm and Wade both came in to tell Jet that Eggman wanted to speak with him, and he literally walks in right after Storm speaks of the proposition Eggman had for Jet. Eggman steals the 2 Arcs of the Cosmos that Storm brought back, and after the coldest turnaround and tweak out from this green nigga, Eggman flies off, Jet correcting his course to give chase. Now here's where our 2 stories converge.
Huh? Ha! Took long enough. Where's Eggman?
They call it the Crimson Tower. It's Meteotech's signal tower. Commands sent out here relay through facilities across the world to control the robots. In other words, you're looking at Meteotech's brain.
That think Eggman nabbed the arcs of the cosmos we've gotten and ran in there.
What's he after this time?
He's probably planning to use the stone's power to issue an order to all the world's robots from this tower. Sooner or later, he was planning to set the robots rampaging.
That was probably his reason for forming Meteotech in the first place.
The Eggman Land project again, huh? He never gives up, does he? Well, looks like you gotta storm the place.
Hold on, huh? You think I was just sitting around here twiddling my thumbs? Sonic the Hedgehog?
I follow you. Sorry to keep you waiting.
First one to nab Eggman gets all of the arcs of the cosmos. Huh? And the title of fastest creature in the universe.
Huh. Sounds like fun to me.
Let's get started. Oh, All right, bring it on!
Crimson Tower is our last race for the hero's story, and as the prior cutscene stated, we are racing to Eggman for the Arcs of the Cosmos and the title of the fastest creature in the universe. Jet, my feathered friend, until you can beat Sonic in a foot race, win or lose on extreme gear, you'll never be faster than him. This stage loves gravity control. You'll be using it a lot. It's mandatory. This is not a curve you can just tilt the analog stick around. And using the move too late will resort you falling off the stage and losing a bit of speed. The stage is also different. Like Babylon Garden, you start at the top of a huge platform that leads into a trick ramp, and for the rest of the race, you can't go back up there. Well, unless you restart the course. As the penultimate stage for the hero's story, it's a nice fit to end the story technically right where it started.
No way I'm gonna lose!
Alright, we're back on Babylon. We're using Jet now, and I guess this is where they race through to get to the race in the hero story. Again, just a headcanon, I could be completely wrong here. I like this stage more than the hero stage, as there's more paths to take while racing, and blowing through giant ventilation fans never get old. I don't really have much to say about this stage other than the fact that I like it more than the original. I don't want to call these stages generic, but they low-key pulled off the factory stage already, and they did it better with Meteor Tech. Completing each respective race brings us to the cutscene where Sonic and Jet find Eggman and use the wind for their boards to knock Eggman away as he was getting to insert the two rings in his mother computer. Sonic and Jet knock the rings out of his hand and catch them while the main arc of the cosmos flies out of the computer, which Wave catches. Eggman laments at the fact that he'll never make Eggman land, which, calm down buddy, you'll have your chance in a few months, okay? Then the ground starts shaking and Knuckles starts getting ready to throw hands all in Eggman's face before Tails looks out the window and notices
Babylon Garden!
The resonance from all 5 power units must have called it down.
Then the legends were right! Here. Hey! We haven't settled anything yet! Turning tail and running away, Sonic the Hedgehog!
Running away? Who do you think I am? I'll be waiting.
See you at the World Grand Prix!
No, I'm just kidding. How'd y'all fall for that twice?
Here. Hey! We haven't settled anything yet!
Jet, we have other things to take care of. Let's hurry to Babylon Garden.
I suppose we should head home too.
Hey Sonic, why do you think the ancient Babylonians sealed away that power unit in the Geegan Rocks?
Beats me.
Something's not right. The lightless black that assaulted the divine wings. And how that robot chasing Amy just exploded. Oh, we can't let those meteorites get near Babylon Garden!
It's the fact that y'all just stood there and let it get to Babylon Garden that's blowing me, especially since Jet was doing this to one of its boys earlier. And before you say, he had an arc, he could only do that with an arc, actually, I'm gonna hold on to that comment for a little later.
Oh, that may have forcibly engaged the program in the robot's buffer.
Sonic, the Babylonians weren't able to control the power of those meteorites.
What do you mean?
I figured out how they can change gravitational polarity. It's a black hole. The meteorites amplify gravity to form black holes. That's the lightless black that attacked the divine wings.
The power units are resonating together, forming a giant black hole.
Okay, being realistic here, what the fuck was this guy going to do against this thing here? Fucking wish it away? How did we go from Giant Genie to Metal Overlord 0.5? Mobius Strip is our last and final stage in this game, and man, I love this boss fight. You're not gonna hear that from a lot of people, but I love this boss fight to this day. This is the song I'd listen to if I knew the world was ending, or if I knew my time was coming soon. Especially when you take the boss out and those triumphant ass synths start playing. In order to properly fight this boss, you gotta remember two things. Don't use the power type board, and don't miss any of the cyan tiles that fly out of the ground when you're doing your gravity dive. At the end of each portion of the tracks, the SCRHD, yes, this turned into that, will fly himself to an area that will allow him to activate the gravity dive to suck you into a black hole. But this is your attack phase, and this is how you strike him. Like I said, do not miss any of the blue tiles as they can strike the boss, causing him to teleport away. And since you have to hit him 2 times for 1 lap to count, there might be a possibility that you can hit the man once, miss him another time, and have the race be all flipped up, and you'll actually start flipping laps on the wrong side of the stage. Although I appreciate this check mark they put here to mend the fight from just breaking, it feels a little weird to finish this guy off and see my character emote like he just peace controlled a 9-year-old. Now the reason I don't recommend any pyro type boards is because power characters are at a huge disadvantage because of how the type shortcuts work, and this is what I mean. Before the first and second gravity dive areas, there's a shortcut for the speed and flight type characters respectively. The power characters cannot use their powers until lap 2 because it's only after lap 2 is when the boss starts attacking the player back. The power characters can knock away these attacks, but speed and flight type boards can take advantage of a little exploit I like to call instant gravity dive. As you guys know, before you activate a gravity control in this game, there's a short window before you blast off in front of you. Well, if you're using either one of those 2 character types, that being speed or flight, if you stay in your type shortcut until after the boss does the beginning part of the gravity dive, once you touch the floor, you'll automatically shoot forward and still get the boost from the game registering that you're activating a gravity dive. And not gonna lie, I'm not saying it's a mandatory thing, but trying to beat this boss without these tricks is a little difficult because they definitely spike the difficulties of the CPUs here. I'm not upset because the CPUs can't even damage the boss, so in free race you'll just keep looping until you land your 6 or however many hits you need to kill this guy. But in the story mode, you actually have a 5-minute timer to beat this guy. Out of the 2 bosses, I prefer this one. Babylon Guardian is a good fight in my opinion, but I don't like how you can't level up in that stage and the CPUs can't. Yes, here it's a lot more simple, but the CPUs offer a challenge, and the music here solos the theme for Babylon Guardian any day of the week. What?
Sweet.
Beating the boss fight subsides the black hole, but let's be real here, a black hole that close to Earth, regardless on if I only had 5 minutes to kill that guy, the Earth would have been cooked. We focus on the Babylon rogues at the end of this. Wave asks Jet if he's okay with everything that had happened, and if I was him I'd be more surprised that my dad had been lying to me for all these years, but he proceeds to say something peculiar.
Well, much as I'll miss the vastness of space, this world still has its charm.
What?
Besides...
I wonder what those meteors really were. They had some programming that made them try to gather up the other units. Yeah? It activated when Eggman found the first piece and put it in the mother computer. All the robots went berserk because they were all connected to the network. At least I think that's what happened.
But who made that program?
I have no idea. Maybe the ancient Babylonians, or maybe someone even more ancient. Maybe it was a warning for people to stay away from power beyond control.
But the people of Babylon...
I can't believe they were the descendants of aliens. They crash-landed on this planet in the ancient past. They disconnected their engine unit and left it in orbit, hoping that someday it would fall back down to the surface. Every time they saw a shooting star.
I bet they wish they could get back to their home planet.
Maybe that's why people started wishing on shooting stars.
Sonic!
Man, this game had so much sauce. So that was Sonic Riders Zero Gravity, and goodness, that took longer than I expected. You know, when I first started this video, I remember telling a friend of mine that this video was only going to take me about 2 to 3 weeks, and that turned into almost 2 months. Goodness, life was tough, I'm not gonna lie. I was getting Swiss cheesed by the life switch, I'm not gonna lie. It's diabolical. But before I end this video, I want to go over some of the extras and junk for both of these games, as they had more to offer than just a single player story mode. I'll go over the modes both of the games share first before I move into the differences, just to save a little time. Both games have a dedicated mission mode for unlocking new gears and characters for the game, and while most of the characters unlocked are unlocked by playing the story mode, mission mode is more often for the unlockable gears you can buy in these games' black market and for the 4 extra characters that are locked behind the mission mode. But the black market is where you can buy new gears to race around with, and I'll say the original game handled this a little bit better, like the Omnipotence gear, a bike which allows any characters to take any type shortcuts they want in the original Sonic Riders. You had access to everything right when you hopped on the bike. In Sonic Riders Zero Gravity, you can't just grind on rails with this thing or start flying through wind rings. But the difference with this board is that unlocking a gear doesn't keep the previous gear locked, so you can freely switch between them. Granted, you have enough rings for what you actually want to switch to, because you don't actually want to miss any huge skips. Time trials is for obvious reasons if you want to see how fast you can beat a stage. The World Grand Prix, so Sonic Riders Zero Gravity actually makes sense, and tag team racing. Now here's where the differences in game start to show. The original Sonic Riders are 3 extra game modes: Survival Race, Survival Battle, and Tag Racing. Survival Race has 4 characters on any track of choice, and they must race for a Chaos Emerald. Problem being, the Chaos Emerald drains your air like hell, and when you run out, it's like you've been shocked by the starting line, and the only way to get air back is by going through these ring gates. Survival Battle is literally battle mode. You choose one of the 3 stages that the game has to offer for you, and you battle it out with the occasional sneak attack from the crow homie over here. You and another racer must race along each other to beat another pair of racers. Caveat being, if you stroll too far from your teammate, you'll get shocked until they're close by. These game modes are extremely fun to play, especially when you play with friends and you notice that you accidentally have to collect 95 emeralds. Wait, what the fuck? Yo, I just noticed we're like going through 90 of these things.
What the fuck?
I didn't. Bro, I downloaded the save file off of the internet. I've never played this before. Okay? I mentioned before, these games do have local multiplayer. Up to 4 people can play these 2 games, but between you and I think 2 people is more than enough. Once you hit 3 or 4 players, the screens get uncomfortably small, and if you're only playing with 3, the 4th player slot just gets replaced of a replay cam of whoever's in first place. And I get it, you know, 3rd place doesn't need to have an unnecessary screen advantage, but I don't know, it just feels a little weird. The World Grand Prix option is for my marathon players. Play all of the stages in each respective cup, and you'll unlock new ones to play. For the original Sonic Riders, we have the best courses of all time, Sega Carnival and Illusion, and for Sonic Riders Zero Gravity, we have 80s and 90s Boulevard. These stages were just Sonic Team having fun with Sega's other IPs, and it's funny because the main characters from the Sega Carnival references have actually made their way into Zero Gravity as playable characters, so you can count that as foreshadowing if you want to look at it that way. Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg, Samba de Amigo, and even characters that are even in this game like Knights in the Dream, Shadow Rouge and Cream are also here, and they return in Sonic Riders Zero Gravity as well. But in the original game, Shadow doesn't use an extreme gear. He's the coolest. He uses skates, which I refuse to believe they did this on purpose, because for everybody to be able to use Shadow's Darkness skates, that means this was probably supposed to be unlocked in the black market, or they seriously couldn't come up with a born design for Shadow. I mean, I don't find it weird that they can share his skates, I just find it weird that Shadow has to be the one to do so. Moving back to the mission mode, there are a plethora of things to do just to pad out the playtime, but you were going to beat all of the missions anyway, right? Well, unlocking gold for all of the missions in each respective game will unlock you Super Sonic, and let's be real here, to the people who have played this game, we all know he peaked in the original game. Every other appearance he's made in this racing series has sucked, and let me break it down for you. Super Sonic in the original game has every single ability, every single type shortcut. He's powered up, he can fly, grind on rails, and even punch through stuff. However, in Sonic Riders Zero Gravity, they nerfed him so much he's only good in the water level. How do you make Super Sonic ununlockable and then proceed to make him worse than half of the gears in the game? Every second you're racing, a ring is going to tick down, which determines how long Super Sonic can be on their board. Now for Sonic Riders, that doesn't seem like a bad idea, but for Sonic Riders Zero Gravity, you guys can see where this is going. Super Sonic literally cannot use his gravity abilities unless you mod the game for infinite rings, and even then the game puts you in this boots mode, and the only thing that you can do in this state is take power shortcuts, and again, that's really lame. Super Sonic was balanced in the original game because boosting drained your rings by 20, and if you had under 20, you just weren't allowed to boost. Do you want to see what happens when Super Sonic uses a gravity ability in Sonic Riders Zero Gravity? You guys saw that too, right? Supersonic as an unlockable for 100% in the game seems like an obvious choice, but to limit what he can do so hard, I completely understand why people wouldn't want to go out of their way to do that, especially for Zero Gravity, where these courses weren't made for Supersonic in mind. Crimson Tower, I'm looking at you, and I know you guys are just dying and screaming for me to talk about the 2 overhaul mods by Extreme Gear Labs, and as much as I even wanted to do so myself in this video is long enough, and I just might make a separate video on it. And if I bring it up now, I'm just gonna keep talking about it, so I just kind of wanted to honor their work instead of just skimming over it. These are some very important mods to these games, and Zero Gravity definitely needed one. I'll leave links in the description for you guys to check out the mod if you guys have a computer that can run Dolphin. Sonic Riders is a racing series I wish never died, but with the reception of these 2 games and worse free riders, I feel like this series was just never meant to be. My opinions on Sonic and the Sega racing franchise aren't as favorable as the Sonic Riders franchise, and I'm dead ass serious. I only touched Team Sonic Racing for the intro, and I really hope that this new racing game they announced has extreme gears in them. You see this right there? Yeah, that's Sonic Team playing with our emotions. I'm happy we're getting a new Sonic racing game so soon, considering Shadow Generation just turned 2 months old. Sonic in a car just doesn't appeal to me like Sonic on a hoverboard, or hell, even Sonic on foot. I can see the argument that after all this time we actually need a Sonic racing game where they're all on foot, and I sorta agree. It's weird how the mascot known for being the fastest thing alive only has one racing game where you race each other on foot, and no, I'm not counting SA2 Battles multiplayer. I just wish people put a little bit more effort into trying this game out. This is one of the best ideas they had for the Blue Numbskull at the time, and now he's amongst all the other kart racers getting laughed at because it's just now Mario Kart. I hope you guys enjoyed this Christmas movie I whipped up for you guys. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. To my new subscribers, you guys are amazing, and I hope you guys have an amazing holidays. I hope you guys had an amazing holiday, because this video ended up coming out after Christmas, and you know what, better late than never. Hopefully we can get into uploading some smaller videos so I'm not gone for months on end trying to bring you guys some content. I'm gonna be real here, I tried uploading like 3 videos before this one came out. In the middle of editing all of them, I just scrapped them because they weren't sitting with me. And that's another reason why this video took so long. I really want to thank you guys for crossing that 200 subscriber threshold. Up next is 300, and I don't know, maybe we'll stream or something, we'll do something, we'll put it in the comment section below what I'll do. If you guys enjoyed this video, do not forget to comment, like, subscribe. It'll help out a ton. I'll keep bringing you guys these videos. My next big video will probably be for the Marvel Spider-Man games, or for the meantime, while I figure out how I'm gonna start that, hopefully I can get my ideas in order, because I kinda want to do a Sonic retrospective. Yes, I know you've heard that one before, but with a new generation of YouTube on the rising, growing up I watched everyone give their opinions on the games I love, and whether it was trash or good, it hits different when you're the one making your own video on the matters, and Sonic is what I love talking about. This speedy blue rat is the reason my moral compass is so strong, and to talk about how all of these games have affected me is something I really want to do. But I'll leave you guys with that, as this is the outro to this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Happy New Year.